Do you ever get that strange feeling at night that you're being watched?
Or maybe you heard a noise in the woods you can't explain.
What is the truth about UFOs? And where are the ones that have crashed?
Every week, join husband and wife duo Felicia and Ian as we seek the truth. Recording in the mountains of the Appalachians, we, the Paranormal Lovers, will bring you stories of hauntings, cryptids, UFOs, and more.
You can find us on iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and most other podcast services. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube by searching for The Paranormal Lovers in the search bar.
Welcome to the D.E.A.D podcast, where I discuss all things spooky and weird. I'm Desi, and today I'll be talking about the Dark Watchers. Let's get started. Hey everyone, how's everyone doing tonight? I hope y'all are doing good. It is Memorial Day weekend, so I am on a little vacation with my family. It's also my mom's birthday, so we kind of got a little getaway on a ranch, so it's been nice. I am recording this from the ranch, so hopefully it sounds okay. So I'm not drinking anything, but I am wearing my Chucky t-shirt, and it has Chucky on it, and then at the bottom it just says Chucky, and then it says wanna play. So I will post a picture of that for y'all. So tonight's episode was a recommendation by my friend Brandy. She had been asking me to cover this. Well, let's get started. For the last 300 years, locals and tourists alike have told chilling tales of the Dark Watchers. Massive specters that can make a person disappear with just a glance. The Santa Lucia Mountains are a marvel to behold, but as the mountains rise into the California skies, with an endless ocean before them, shadowy figures sometimes materialize on the afternoon horizon above them. The Dark Watchers. The Dark Watchers are described as being tall, shadowy figures that keep their distance from humans. They are said to be far taller than the average human, sometimes up to 10 feet tall. They are essentially silhouettes of opaque shadows, with no facial or bodily features. From their silhouettes, many have reported them wearing wide-brimmed hats or cloaks. Despite the lack of facial features, those who have been in the presence of a Dark Watcher report knowing that the entity was watching or observing them. When approached, they simply vanish. They most often appear in the time between late afternoon and dusk. Some iterations of the legend say that the Dark Watchers accept small gifts such as fruits or nuts, though the purpose of such gifts is not elaborated on. According to the Chumash folklore, the Dark Watchers are shadowy figures that stand atop the lofty heights, silently observing the land below. Described as tall, featureless silhouettes cloaked in darkness, they are said to possess an aura of mystery and an eerie sense of presence. The legend suggests that these elusive entities have been present for a very long time, acting as silent guardians of the region. The legends and accounts surrounding the Dark Watchers offer a fascinating glimpse into the eerie nature of these enigmatic beings. Numerous individuals claim to have witnessed these shadowy figures standing motionless on the mountaintops, their presence hauntingly evident. Tales speak of the encounters where hikers or locals catch glimpses of these spectral entities, only for them to vanish when approached. Descriptions often depict them as towering silhouettes, seemingly dressed in dark robes that blend seamlessly with the shadows. Within the realm, the legends and accounts surrounding the Dark Watchers offer a fascinating glimpse into the eerie nature of these enigmatic beings. Numerous individuals claim to have witnessed these shadowy figures standing motionless on the mountaintops, their presence hauntingly evident. Tales speak of encounters where hikers or locals catch glimpses of these spectral entities, only for them to vanish when approached. Descriptions often depict them as towering silhouettes, seemingly dressed in dark robes that blend seamlessly with the shadows. Within the realm of local folklore, the Dark Watchers play a unique role as silent observers of the Central Coast. They are believed to be ever vigilant, perpetually watching over the land and its inhabitants. Their unwavering presence has fostered a sense of mystery and reverence. As people ponder the purpose behind their watchful gaze, some interpretations suggest that the Dark Watchers serve as guardians, keeping a careful eye on the natural landscape, while others believe they might represent a spiritual connection to the region's ancient past. Among the Chumash people, the Dark Watchers hold significant cultural importance. Deeply intertwined with their mythology and spiritual beliefs, these shadowy figures have become an integral part of Chumash folklore. They embody a sense of otherworldly power and serve as a reminder of the enduring connection between humanity and the natural world. The Dark Watchers symbolize a respect for the mountains and a recognition of the unseen forces that govern the land. The Chumash people's reverence for these beings further contributes to the allure and fascination that surrounds the Dark Watchers today. Known to the 18th century Spanish settlers as Los Vigilantes Oscuros, or the Dark Watchers, these featureless silhouettes appear like witches with broom hats and walking sticks in hand. Oral tales across generations warn that approaching these specters could result in one's disappearance. Over the years, numerous documented encounters and first-hand testimonies have emerged, providing chilling glimpses into the world of the Dark Watchers. These accounts come from individuals who claim to have witnessed these mysterious entities firsthand. Their narratives offer valuable insights into the nature of these encounters and the impact they have had on those who have experienced them. The stories surrounding the Dark Watchers are filled with spine-tingling details and unexplained phenomena. Many tales of unsuspecting hikers stumbling upon these shadowy figures during their treks through the Santa Lucia Mountains. Witnesses describe feelings of unease and an eerie stillness that envelops the air in the presence of the Dark Watchers, always lingering just out of reach. Unfortunately, tales of the Dark Watchers are about as vague as the shapes themselves. But 20th century authors like John Steinbeck added their own mythos around the phenomenon. Like many other California writers, Steinbeck grew up on stories of the Dark Watchers. His own mother told him how she would bring food to the mountains as an offering to the creatures, only to later see flowers in their place. Other writers, like Central California poet Robinson Jeffers, also added to the legend of the Dark Watchers through his own imaginings. Jeffers described the Dark Watchers as forms that look human to human eyes, but certainly are not human. He noted that they come from behind ridges to watch, and are known to emerge from the quiet twilight before they melted into the shadows. While there are no physical evidence to prove that these figures are anything more than visual anomalies, many people have snapped intriguing photos of them. From these photographs, some scientists have tried to determine what it is that people think they have seen. The first theory is that the watchers are simply hallucinations due to exhaustion and isolation. On one hand, this makes complete sense. Mountain hiking is a taxing task, and many people set out for their hikes unprepared and end up exhausted, dehydrated, and delirious. It is not unusual to have auditory and visual hallucinations while in such a vulnerable and compromised state. The second theory centers around infrasound. Infrasound is low-frequency sound that is below what humans can register as audible. However, the body still physically registers infrasound physically. The organs of the inner ear still register the sensation of sound. People who experience infrasound often report feeling dread, vertigo, dizziness, or the feeling of being watched. This explains some of the encounters, but not the direct sightings of the Dark Watchers. The third theory is the Brocken specter. A Brocken specter is a phenomenon that occurs when the sun is behind a person and their shadow is projected onto fog or clouds in front of them. The effect is an enormous shadowy figure standing before the person. This is a far more likely explanation, though. It is possible that people are seeing Brocken specters while experiencing infrasound. The last theory is the only supernatural one. Is it so far-fetched that these beings are actual spirits? The United States of America is a country founded on bloodshed and stands on land taken by force. Is it so outlandish to consider that perhaps some of the spirits of those who were wronged during the process stuck around and are carefully watching the trespassers and colonizers to this day? Maybe it's a combination of all of these factors coming together to conjure those eerie sights. Now I'm going to read a supposed encounter with the Dark Watcher. My story might not be interesting to tell, and trust me, I've never been an exciting person. I'm always in someone else's shadow, and that's fine. Have you ever walked alone at night and felt as if you were being watched? Ever looked to the mountains while the sun was coming down? Well, that's a stupid question. I'm sure many people have felt as if they're being watched. Sorry, I'm just trying to be a bit dramatic in my story. Everyone likes that, right? A dramatic telling. Right now, my window is open, and it looks to the beach that rests at the Salton Sea, a very polluted lake in the state of California. I'm sure some have heard of the Dark Watchers. If you haven't, let me explain. The Dark Watchers are tall, shadowy figures that look off the sides of the mountain into the area. I was told about these things for as long as I can remember. I remember seeing them, but I never saw them up close until last night. I was walking home from my friend's house, and I live in a somewhat isolated town, so walking alone in the dark always gave me the creeps. However, I didn't feel like going home, so I walked to the beach. If you think I swam in that disgusting water, then you can forget that. Sometimes the scent of the Salton City will rise up and stink up the whole town. I was at that beach, and I decided to sit down and look at the beach. I just didn't want to go home. And that's when I saw it. A shadowy figure just to the left of me. Suddenly I felt as if I was being watched. I turned behind me to see a shadowy figure standing just right behind me. I got up quickly and stood my ground and backed up. The shadowy figure looked at me. Its eyes were white. Now people have told me not to speak or look at a Dark Watcher should I ever see one. But I looked, and I got a very good look at it too. The body resembled that of a skeleton, but with the skin sunken in, showing off the bones. And there was no mouth and no nose. I looked at it, and it looked back. For some reason, I wasn't scared. In fact, it felt like I had seen the shadow figure somewhere before. However, I didn't stay long when my brain finally processed what this thing was and what I was doing. I ran up the beach and back to my house. Nothing happened. I'm writing this to you for one reason and one reason only. It's 8 p.m. and the moon is at its fullest, and it's standing right in front of my window, watching me. I look back to it as I'm writing you this. I look right in its eyes, and I realize what it's saying to me. It's time to go. Where I and this shadowy figure will go, I will soon find out. I'm not sad about walking with the figure. I feel at peace, again. I was always in someone else's shadow, and now I am a shadow. Funny. It's very funny. I can see what you're doing. I'm behind you now. You turn around, but still not looking at where I am. I'm on the wall now. Can you see me? I'm your shadow. We are your shadows, and we are always watching. That brings me to the end of this episode. Thanks for listening to the D.E.A.D podcast. Please follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at the D.E.A.D podcast. Also, feel free to send in your stories, episode suggestions, or feedback at the deadpodcast1@gmail.com, or send me a DM on Instagram. If you enjoyed this show, please rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you are listening on, and be sure to come back next week for my next episode.